it was helpful because I started writing it when things were really booming in the industry. So it took me longer because I was working a lot. But now that I'm here, I'm kind of glad that I like by accident got those other things. Like, not that there's a lot of money in writing books, but it's certainly at least something.
First I got your voicemail, then I got you. We can meet in person or maybe on Zoom. So tell me what's your genre, tell me what do you do. I'd like to know the things that specifically make you.
Hey there, I'm Tim Barnes, you are the genre, and in every episode of this show, I ask a great new guest about the first genre that inspired them, the first craft that they pursued, and how they feel about that first pursuit now. Now, I don't know if you can hear a little bit of New York traffic outside, but it's a very, very snowy, wintry time. We got some Arctic gusts. I don't know if that's the technical term, but that's how I decided to say it right now. That's been going on. I also want to acknowledge the level of sorrow on top of the insanity in the U.S. right now. This is that moment where all the warning signs from every history class you've ever taken are shining a beacon right into our eyes. You're ignoring quite a bit if you are able to to ignore it. It's sad, but I hope that this show is a little bit of brightness without making you feel intellectually numb. Maybe that's the best way to say it. In this episode, you're going to hear a very lovely conversation that I had with the author Noël Stark. It was actually recorded last year in 2025, but it's finally reaching your ears now. And Noël Stark has a book out called Love, Camera, Action, a Novel. It's about a scrappy TV director landing her big break only to go head-to-head with a surly yet sexy director of photography. That's right, this is a sexy book, a romance. And we talk about all kinds of things like having a pen name, the scrutiny that comes with writing within the romance genre, and what it means to deal with that pesky word that every creative has to interact with these days, intellectual property, IP. Speaking of, I have a scripted audio series premiering February 11th called Judge Travis. You can subscribe to it now wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you go to judgetravis.com, you can listen to the trailer, see who the cast is, and even see some blurbs that really blew me away. Like there's a really, really kind one from Roy Wood Jr. It's a passion project. I can't wait for you to hear it. But more than that, at this moment, I can't wait for you to hear my conversation with Noël Stark. Enjoy. It's so funny because this is like all podcasters, you kind of start with your own inner circle, and then as it starts to, expand, you start to get reached out to. But what stood out to me was genuinely the words behind the scenes. I love behind the scenes, everything. Cool. Many of the things that I write have to do with the behind the scenes. Okay. And I don't know how much can we talk about the fact that, how do I say the name that is on this book? And can we talk about the fact that, this is a
pen name? Yeah, I think we can talk about that as a pen name. It's because, the reason, I don't know if you want to get into this, but the reason why I chose a pen name was because I wanted to separate my two lives a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'd always, even when I was doing my own short films, I put it under Noël Stark Productions.
And it is like a mysterious name. It has some of that allure of like a Tony Stark, and then
doesn't it? Yeah, and like the Stark from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and like that's an umlaut, right? Over
the E. It's in French, it's called something different. It's a terza.
Well, this show is it's interesting that you brought that up, because I feel like I talk about that sort of stark separation energy quite often. Like at the beginning of my career, I had separate emails for the different things that I was interested in. And a lot of what this show is about is trying to find a fusion between those things and really embracing the fact that at the end of the day, you are the genre that you should be chasing. It's not necessarily all these separate things. So before we kind of dive into the main questions of the show, I am interested in knowing, like, why do you feel like it's good to have that sort of separation? Does that give you some healthy compartmentalization to your days as a creative person?
Yeah, it's I think at the beginning, I wanted to have a separate name for my romance stuff because I think that it was like, I felt like it was a dirty little secret, like, because romance used to be really like looked down upon and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, I'm a serious artist over here.
Uh,
Like romance is like this fun thing that I'm doing. So I wanted it like that. But then it's sort of grown into this whole different persona because, Noël Stark has that mystery to it.
yeah.
It's sort of grown into this very positive thing where it started of like, this is separate from my real artist.
Yeah. Some of that superhero energy.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I do by day. This is what I do by night.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk a bit about the genre of romantic fiction, because the more I think about it, that does seem like the most challenging genre to tell someone at a party that that you write. Do you think so, or does it really pique people's interest when you say that?
I don't. I mean, I do you think it's a challenging genre to write?
I don't think it's challenging to write. I think it's a challenging one for others to accept in a certain way, where it's like when you tell someone that I write romance novels, there might be a series of conclusions that they'll make about it. Often the vibe being like, maybe this is just like fan fiction, like that. Those are the lines of questioning. Is this like?
I think people are too polite to ask those questions. And I think especially, I'm a Canadian, I live in LA. I think Americans in general are just really happy you're doing something, like you're making something, you're putting it out there. But I mean, the thing about romance and romantic comedy in general, everybody loves it. Yeah. Everybody. They don't admit that they love it, but they all love it.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very tricky form to do, even though, a lot of people say, oh, well, romances all end the same way, or they all have the same structure. And I'm like, murder mysteries all end the same way. Like spy novels all end the same way. Like there's comfort in knowing that it's going to end in a certain way. So you can relax while you read it, And so I think it's honestly derided because it's women's fiction.
Mm.
And it's seen as, fantastical and like crap and all that kind of stuff. When really the genre goes, speaking of genre, goes across genres. Like there's romance that's sci-fi, that's fantasy, that's historical, that's, Western. There's all different types of genre of romance. So you can be reading all sorts of different styles, but still be in the romance genre. And that's what's kind of exciting and fun about it. And there's highbrow romance and there's lowbrow and there's fan fiction and there's erotica. There's a lot that you can look at. And the other dirty little secret is that romance keeps the lights on in the publishing world.
That is very, very true. Yeah,
it's like 25 to 30% of the market share.
Yeah, and it feels like on a parallel track, there are certain types of television that are the bread and butter of television, and I think it's interesting that you work in that field as well. It's stuff like Law and Order. Like you're never not going to have a show like that.
Yeah, always. And I've worked in scripted, but I've also worked a lot in reality TV. And I've done a ton of renovation shows. Yeah. They're all the same. They're all the same. You have a shitty house at the beginning and you have an awesome house at the end. And that's the story. It's like the in-between is what changes, like how do you get to the awesome house? But people love renovation shows because they're calming. Stakes are pretty low.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting what you mentioned because romance is often like a hidden genre within every other genre. When you're pitching a show or, The Office in many ways is a romance story. And often a question from people above will be like, who's falling in love here? Like, what is the juicy thing that's going to tantalize us episode to episode? And something else that you mentioned, I feel like, is that is that lingering question when you're at a party and you tell people that you write a romance novel. I think the question is this romance or is it erotica? Maybe that's sort of like the lingering thing about the person saying that.
I think, maybe. And I'm like, I mean, there's lots of different, what we call heat levels in the industry. And that's always like, I mean, for me, if I'm reading a closed door romance, which you don't get to see anything or read anything. I'm kind of like, what's the point? It has to be really well written or really fun for me to
Yeah,
read it.
yeah, yeah.
And then it goes straight into erotica, and it's people have different versions of what that is. Like my idea of what erotica is probably way more intense
Yeah.
than what the average reader is. So I'm always coming into, in my book, there's a couple of scenes that are they're long and they're pretty
Mm.
in depth, sex scenes. And to me, that's about a middle. I'm in the middle somewhere.
There should be like a Scoville level, kind of like in Hot Ones. There
Well,
should be just on the back of every single.
yes, there's like a chili rating.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So it's out of 5. I'm about a 3.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Some people would read it and like my relatives who are older, they're
Uh,
like, whew, whew, that's crazy. And I'm like, it's not crazy.
and I
Yeah.
guess I've never really considered how gendered the romance novel world is. I've never, until you mentioned that, I never considered the fact that when I think of a romance novelist, I'm typically imagining a woman.
Yeah.
How are there many men in this realm?
There's a few. I mean, I would love to see that change. I would
Uh,
love to see men write more romance novels. There's a few. I only know the ones that I read, and they tend to write what we call romance, which is like gay romance, like
oh God. Yeah.
LGBTQ. So it's like most romances are FM, so female main character, male main character, but is like 2 guys, or FF
Yeah.
is 2 girls, or MMMF is like 3
Yeah.
guys and 1 girl.
I guess I'm imagining many men will just worry about how creepy they're being.
Oh,
They were-
yeah,
that's
fair enough.
that's
Yeah.
or even publishers. I imagine like what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wonder. I mean, that makes me sad. There's a barrier there for men. Oh
Yeah. Let's get on the streets.
no. But I'm always really interested when guys read my novel and what their take is. Like that's always really interesting because generally men don't read romance novels either.
Yeah.
And when they have, and we've talked about it, I always get a totally different viewpoint, which is kind of fun and interesting.
And in Love Camera Action, I love how succinctly you explain what these different roles behind the scenes in a production is. It happens so quick and so smoothly. It's like
Oh my God.
it's the greatest introduction to it. It's not like a pain. So here's the thing about a production assistant. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And you work in the business, right? So
Yes.
know. And so it was a difficult balance to make because sometimes I'd say stuff and readers would be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I have no idea what this person's job is. And I'd have to go back and really make their description efficient and fun so that people who aren't in the business would understand what their roles were. But people who are in the business wouldn't be like, ugh, that's like not quite it.
Yeah.
You know?
So let's dive into your journey here. What was the first genre that you would say called out to you in your youth?
Now, when you say genre, do you mean things that I would consume or things that I created?
Yeah, keep it purposefully sort of vague. It's not even like the actual definition of genre, but we'll dive into created because the first question is like, what was the first sort of the type of thing? So it's like consumption that you were kind of like obsessed with.
Okay, so I grew up in a very small town in Canada, and I grew up in the woods of that small town.
Okay.
And my dad was on the cutting edge of technology, so we had laser discs.
Oh my God. The first time I saw a laser disc, I thought I was high and I was in middle school. It really freaked me out. I just did not know.
Yeah, they're so weird. And then he got the first VHS recorder, and he would record the laser discs onto the VHS tapes.
Okay. Yeah.
And so there were all these movies. They were like James Bond movies. It was Star Wars movies. It was like all the kind of famous things. And because he taped it directly from the Laserdisc onto the VHS, Laserdiscs used to skip
a
record. And so he would directly record the skips onto the VHSs. So there's all these movies because I lived out in the bush. I would watch these movies over and over again. But when I see them now, if there isn't a skip at a certain point, I get all confused.
Oh
Like, I'm
wow,
like,
okay.
where's the
Like it's such an ingrained part of
yeah,
the film.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I as a kid, I loved action stuff. So Star Wars,
Uh,
old James Bond, Raiders of the Lost Ark, like all that
nice.
kind of stuff. I really loved it. But because also I was the youngest of the family by a lot, no one was really particularly paying any attention to me because they were all tired and had other things to do. So then I was also watching movies that were not appropriate for my
Oh, okay.
age.
Yeah.
Well, like in the 80s, I think there was like a ton of stuff where they just would throw nudity in wherever, like in your plane or in, I don't know if you know this, it's like an early Ron Howard movie called Night Shift, and it was about hookers. It was just Shelley Long and Henry Winkler and Michael Keaton. It was like early days.
That's so interesting that he put Henry. I have to watch this now. He put the Fonz in this movie.
Yeah, well, because I think with Ron Howard, everybody felt bad because the Fonz couldn't get any work
Yeah.
after Happy Days, right? Because no one could separate Henry Winkler from the Fonz. And so Ron Howard always like brought Henry Winkler into these kind of nebbishy roles where he played these like really kind of nerdy losers, like in Arrested Development, you know how
Yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah.
there. So like those kind of roles. I guess to help him break out. But anyways, all these movies were always had tons of sex in them. God, there was this thriller with Kathleen Turner and Anthony Hopkins called Crimes of Passion. Oof. Like tough, like sick, kind of sexy, like sick. I mean, like a very violent sex scenes and all this kind
Uh,
of stuff. And I was just like watching them as a little kid.
yeah. That's it. Like I remember that. I remember when I had there was one summer where I lived at my grandma's house, and she had cable. I didn't have my parents didn't have cable, and so
Right.
on HBO, I would just get so excited when I saw the nudity symbol before the movie.
Yes.
Like I
Yeah.
just because there is an inherent when you're young, there's an inherent mystery to so much of this.
Yes.
Now, do I think that I saw Eyes Wide Shut far too young, and it perplexed me to a degree that I don't think I've still recovered from? Yes.
Thanks, Grandma.
But it feels like there's a genre within that. There's like that part of your life where you're kind of like excitedly sneaking to watch certain things.
Yeah.
It's like a thriller.
Yeah. And back to the romance thing. My sister had romance novels. She's 11 years older than me. So we had to share a room, which she was not down for. Like, she was very unhappy about it. But she had all these romance books, and I would steal them and read all the like naughty parts because that's what you're drawn to. And so, I was introduced to romance novels quite young and introduced them to a way where it was like dangerous because I knew if she caught me with them, I would get it. Right.
Yeah.
It sort of like made that little connection in my young mind.
There's something that you explained really quickly that I think is something worth exploring. So, your father was technologically savvy, yet you lived in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
I think he was like going through some Thoreau period or something. Like we moved from the suburbs of Toronto that turned out to be like a very wealthy suburb and then just moved us right, like literally our house was in the forest. You had to drive this long driveway into where our house was. You couldn't see it from the road. And like he was not a country person. He grew up in the city. My mom was not a country person. My brothers and sister were not country people. And so I was brought up in the country in this way, but my dad really didn't know how to do anything that was country-ish, but I think he just felt like he had to get back to the land or something, or I don't know.
And how do you think that influenced your life? That being the only child who had to experience this sort of country living.
Yeah, like my brothers and sister hated it because they were
Uh,
teenagers and they felt like they were basically stranded. My mother also hated it because she was a city person and she didn't want to be with all these country people. But I loved it. I mean, I grew up with all like tons of animals and a pond with like frogs and salamanders and all these kinds of things. And I had this amazing upbringing.
Compared to your siblings, did it kind of become the most normal for you?
Yeah, that's how I thought normal things were. Like we were outside of, like, our house was right by a pond, so I grew up with the changes of nature, the changes of the season. You know, it was there was a beaver 10 feet from my door. One of our dogs got killed by a bobcat. It was like, you know, actual country living where none of us really knew what to do with it, except for me, I guess, as like a 6, 7 year old. So for me, it was amazing. I think for everybody else, they hated it.
So, with all of that in mind, what would you say, knowing how interested you were in these sort of secretive, romantic things, on top of the fact that you had an interest in earlier in that in like action adventure films, what would you
Mhm.
say was the first craft that you pursued?
I think it was writing. Like I remember writing little books when I was bored, you know, because we didn't have cable. We had an antenna which in the middle of the forest gets you 3 channels.
Oh, yeah.
And so there was nothing to do. That's why I would watch those movies over and over and over again. And so I think it was writing because I would make all these little books. And then later when I was in middle school, I wrote plays where my classmates were characters in them and then they'd play themselves and the schools would actually put on the plays.
Oh,
So
wow.
I know it was like, that was so cool when I think of
That is very, very cool.
I know these little country schools are like, I don't know, let's put on a show.
Was there a sort of evolution that you noticed, or looking back on it that you noticed through these? Like, did they start being similar to things like Indiana Jones and kind of evolve as time went by?
I think they were never. They were slightly action orienting. I think by the time I got to middle school, I was really into like Agatha Christie and murder mysteries. So they were all murder mysteries at that point.
Wait, did you
So,
write a murder mystery with your classmates?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I really wish I could dig it up. I have no idea where it is. But yeah, I do remember there were these twins in my class, and one was the good twin and one was the bad twin, and the bad twin killed everybody. Um, and yeah, so like I was just into murder mysteries at that time. But then I guess I didn't lose the bug for writing, but I just started doing other things. I was a singer. I was a professional singer all through high school. I
Hmm.
was acting, and I went to acting school after university. So I guess I kind of lost the writing thread after after those middle school things.
Were all of these endeavors embraced by your family in general?
No, they had no idea what to do with it at all. Like they like I said, like my parents were a lot older, so they were just tired. They didn't pay attention to me at all. I
Hmm.
the, I did well in school. They had nothing to do with it, and they were very confused by it because my brothers and sisters were all kind of middling. You know, like one was the druggie, one was the jock. My
Hmm.
sister was like the figure skater who dated everybody. So none of them were interested in school. And I would be doing well in school and then doing all these creative projects and artistic endeavors. And my parents just like were looking at me like I was some kind of alien. And then I guess in a way I
But
was.
it's so surprising that it's not, necessarily pride compared to it's just
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. My mom really loved that I was a singer. She like to her, me singing, and I was singing a lot of jazz, like that to her was the
oh,
the
nice.
best thing that could have ever happened. So in that way, they were all very proud of me. They just didn't know what to do with it, if you know what I mean. So There was no like fostering. It was more like they were just kind of confused, I think is the best way to put it.
Got it. And you said professional singer. What are the parameters of being a professional singer?
So, okay, for me, the parameters of being a professional singer is that you get paid for doing it.
Yes.
So, when I was in high school, again, small towns, I was in a semi-professional jazz choir that was based in the high school, but we went around to all the like local resorts all summer and sang and got paid like $35 a night or something. And then we'd put on big shows at the downtown opera house and, you know, get paid. And then I started doing I started kind of frontlining jazz quartets. So then I would go out at 15 and 16 to local bars and stuff and just say, hey, hire my band. And they would.
I feel like that's not something you hear about often, a jazz quartet. That's not a path you hear.
Yeah. Well, the other cool thing about small towns is that there's a lot of old people in them.
Oh, yes.
So they like it when the youth are doing old timey things. You know what I mean?
That's incredible. So you did kind of like, you had this sort of time warp experience, it seems like.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a little bit of like a Little House on the Prairie in the jazz age. It sounds like.
Yeah. In small town Canada. And it's funny that you say that because, you know, my brothers and sisters were so much older than me. Like I was connected to their generation. And then my parents, I was connected to their generation. And I think that's really helped me with connecting with my stepkids who are in their 20s and my son who's 11. And it's just sort of helped me connect with them. So I got this really amazing compliment on my book where these two women were reviewing it on a podcast, and they were saying, "Oh, this woman's got to be a millennial. She's got to be a millennial." In the way she's writing, and I'm like, "Yes," because I'm a Gen Xer, right? I'm not a millennial, but I took that as such a huge compliment because it meant I could kind of write in a younger voice, and it was okay. So
don't scroll away. You Are the Genre. We'll be right back after the break.
Justice may be blind, but I can see right through your narrow behind.
You watch reality TV court shows every day for, let's face it, the insanity.
I'm suing this heifer for her blatant thievery of my style.
Heifer? I am just as slim thick as you.
All right, somebody bring out the measuring tape.
But it turns out that things get even crazier behind the bench.
But baby, please don't go. You're the center of my life, and without you, I'll be completely lost and apparently out of $28 million.
Judge Travis is a new comedy audio series that highlights fake leaked footage from America's favorite fake TV judge, Percy Travis. And Percy would have you think that in addition to being America's top TV judge, he also has America's most faithful marriage. But this here footage tells a different story.
Friendship building behind her back is normal, natural. I'm just spreading the love.
And to top it off, he's interested in becoming the next Supreme Court justice. The Judge Travis podcast features the voices of Bashir Salahuddin from HBO's South Side as Judge Travis.
You must think I'm a donut. I don't have to sprinkle and shit.
Langston Kerman from HBO's Insecure as his producer, Jax.
Don't overthink the hair. Anything can be fixed in post. I know the effects people at Marvel who made Robert Downey Jr. seem likable.
Brandy Denise from that Starz series, Power, as his bailiff, Raquel.
I'm literally the most underpaid bailiff on TV.
Keisha Sharp from UPN's Girlfriends and Fox's Empire as his wife, Shirley.
You are not close. No, it's about damn time for this showdown.
Amber Ruffin from CNN's Have I Got News for You as the narrator. Guess that means I'm out of a job.
Now get this. Judge Travis knows exactly who that man in the suit is.
And even comedy legend George Wallace as his Barbara Gray.
Here come the judge. The king has returned.
So listen to Judge Travis wherever you get podcasts starting on February 11th. And subscribe now so you get the first episodes as soon as they drop. Oh, and remember, this show is totally fake. You just heard a trailer for my new scripted audio series, Judge Travis, and here we are in the middle of the show where I simply tell you about something that I've been enjoying. And one of the things that I've been enjoying lately is bringing things back. I brought this podcast back. I brought the newsletter, Letters from African America, which you can find at lettersfromafricanamerica.substack.com, where I email 5 jokes a day based on things in the news by 11 a.m. 11 a.m. each day, Eastern, you get 5 jokes from me. It's something that I hope to bring more writers, specifically Black comedy writers, into the fold with. But for now, if you subscribe to that, you get a daily dose of Tim Barnes. You get the best updates about You Are the Genre. And if you upgrade to paid, you get early bird episodes and so much more. I've also really been enjoying going into some deep dives of some Toni Morrison interviews. She was an incredible human being. And the more you dive into the modern world of those interviews, the more fascinating they get. Like, she starts talking about things like her love of the Transformers films, of all things. I swear to God, that is something that Toni Morrison mentions in one of the many Q&As you can find of her on YouTube. But now let's get back to my conversation with Noël Stark about, I believe, her journey out of the woods. Are there certain lessons from this experience, having the free time, honestly, the undistracted free time to really delve into your own imagination? Did that kind of inform how you raised your children, or was there like a decreased amount of screen time? Really kind of, you can only watch these laser discs that have been transferred onto VHS imagery.
Like I brought them and gave them all the old technology. That would be so
Yeah, kind of like The Village, I guess. In that's
Yeah.
in my Shyamalan movie.
Yeah, it's funny because I have been thinking about that a lot, that I really just had so much unadulterated time. And I was really bored for a lot of it because
Yeah.
also it's hard to meet up with friends because living out in the country, they're just really, really far away.
Yeah.
So I think with my own son, like, God, there's no, I'm a single mom, so there's no stopping the screen time. Like, I gave up that idea like a long time ago. But I really instilled in him, and he's taken it up, thankfully, that if he's going to have screen time, he better do something with it. He can't just be consuming the whole time. So, and I don't know if that was me saying that or it's just naturally who he is. But, when he was 8 years old, he was like begging me for Photoshop.
Mm.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, Jude, you can't have Photoshop. Like, it's an adult thing. I don't know how it works. And he's like, no, let me have it. And now he's like an amazing graphic designer. He's
That's
on
incredible, yeah.
he's composing music on Ableton Live. He's like animating shorts on YouTube. So he's creating all this stuff with all his screen time. And in that way, I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. And the summertime, he does nothing. Like we go to our we have a cabin outside of Toronto and we go to that. And he basically just does nothing all summer because I do sometimes think about this over-scheduled children thing. And I think it does kind of wear away at your creativity. Like what kind of upbringing did you have in that way?
I mean, yeah, I had a lot of screen time. I grew up in South Central LA. It was pretty sheltered. It wasn't allowed to go outside. So I had a lot of fun with my boredom, though. There was this overwhelming feeling of sort of swimming in my boredom and watching TV and being involved with my imagination and writing things. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I think that the funny thing about technology to me is that there is like this sort of this frustration that you can have when you see someone on a piece of technology. But the thing is, I think the frustration is the mystery because you have no idea what they're doing on it. Whereas like the other version of it is, you see someone reading a book. Well, I could be reading a book on my phone or on my laptop, or you see someone actively cutting out a piece of art, but you can just do that on Photoshop. And I think we can forget that there are all the tools that you see on Photoshop, all the tools that you see on Final Cut Pro, or all these editing systems. Usually, the symbol for it is some physical, tangible thing. You're just doing an approximation of that on this device. And I think we all have a frustration built into that because we're not able to do the actual physical thing. But this is the most accessible version of that. We have a compound frustration with technology in that way.
I think that's so true. And I've never thought about that before because, all these sort of online editing systems are all based on how they used to do them on Steinbeck's, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it uses the same words, it uses the same, like you said, icons for it. And I think it is really hard to grasp it because you can't get your hands on it. And there's also all these studies of, writing things out in hand that it like in handwriting that you learn the things so much better. And because you're editing them in your mind as you write them down, you understand the concepts better. And it's interesting that divorce of kinesthetic learning that we don't have in technology.
Yeah, it's like we're always doing these separate things, but it doesn't feel separate because it kind of is because it kind of isn't. So it's like, what did you do today? I did all kinds of stuff on my computer, but but it certainly doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like I went to the post office. It doesn't feel like I
yeah. That's
so
right.
I think we're at a good time to dive into the last question and then talk more about your book. But when you think back on that first pursuit, and it sounds like I guess maybe before we get to the last question, I want to talk about what was the first moment that you kind of hit a big city from this small town life? Like, what was the first city you went to?
Well, my mother's family was all in Toronto. And so the small town that I grew up in was 24,000 people. And again, I lived outside of that city. And so then we would go down and visit my mom's family in Toronto because they were all from Toronto. So to me, Toronto was like, wow, like, look at this thing. It's so
Bright
big
lights.
and fun. Yeah. So then I went to Toronto and then but at the same time, when I was 18, I was still in high school and we had a band trip to New York. And when I was in New York, I was like, oh, this is a city.
Yeah. And you're still trying to get your jazz quartet to play.
Yeah, exactly. So I did end up living in New York because I remember standing in Central Park. I was like, I'm going to live in the city one day. And I did. I went to theater school in New York. And then when I came back to Toronto felt very small at that point. After living in New York, Toronto feels small.
And so just to kind of to map out these various routes that you've taken, it's writing short stories, writing plays, becoming a musician. When does television production come into play? It's so connected in a way, but like, what was the first entry into that world?
I came back to Toronto to act. And I was doing okay, but someone suggested that I shoot a short film and to act in it and use that sort of as a business card type thing. And for whatever reason, I thought me acting in my own short film was really boring, which was maybe the first sign of like, maybe I shouldn't be an actress. But writing and directing a short film from behind the camera sounded really fun for some reason. And so I did this short film and it just blew up. It went to Sundance, it went to TIFF, it went all over the world, and it launched me into this new world that was behind the camera. And it was a world I really knew nothing about. And so I kind of stumbled my way through it in terms of like, I got production jobs. I worked on reality shows. I worked on magazine shows. I did some work in scripted. And, at that time when you're kind of young and hungry, you do all sorts of things. So I was a locations assistant on a movie about like 14-year-old hustlers. Everyone was
Disney
a bitch.
Channel movie? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Let me be clear. Everyone was a bitch. Some of the producers, however, had gone through the ringer to come about this story. But like you're just doing everything and anything that you can that's on the, like to gain experience. And so then I guess I was always sort of writing because I was story editing in the edit suite. I was developing shows with CBC, and I was directing in the field, but But in Canada, because it's such a small market compared to LA, you kind of have to do everything. So I was writing, I was directing, I was producing, I was working in casting, I was doing voice work. It was like I was doing everything just to
It's like
survive.
you experienced the current Hollywood before the current, Hollywood in the US.
Yes. Oh my God. I really didn't want to go back there. But now
I
that
know,
we're
but
both
now,
in LA, I'm like, oh my God. I guess I'll go apply for some locations assistance
yeah,
job.
yeah. Oh my God, yeah. It's so awful right now.
So awful. Oh my God. Yes.
It seems like this is a natural fit for you writing these novels, whereas a lot of people are in some ways forcing themselves to learn how to write prose because that is the pre-existing IP that then becomes the next thing,
I know.
which is an interesting dilemma for people to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting. Are you doing that? Are you trying to write IP?
Well, I'm trying. I'm trying to really learn the craft, and it's not for the end goal of it being IP, or for it being IP to become something else. I am kind of doing that with one project that's a scripted podcast, but I've worked so much in the podcasting world where it's like I want this to functionally work as a piece of audio first,
Right, right.
and I'm
That's
really
cool.
taking that to heart. But
Yeah.
there's I think once you open yourself up to all the different ways that a story can be told, it is
Yeah.
more of like really not thinking about the end goal of the
Yeah.
product, and really
Yeah.
thinking about like what is the greatest avenue for this story to be told. What is it
Oh my
best served
God.
for? And
Yeah.
I know that I'm better at writing scripts than writing short stories. So I'm really trying to get good at just like there's almost too many options when you're
Mm.
writing a piece of prose fiction.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like the idea really matches the medium. And it's hard to switch medium. It's hard to switch certain ideas to
Yeah.
certain mediums. Like I started writing this novel kind of on a whim. Like I actually never ever thought I would be a novelist because I put authors on a pedestal, and I thought it's going to be way too hard. It's going to take way too long. Like there's just no way. But I got the bug just again on a whim to start writing it, and I just kept writing it, and there was no real end goal in mind. Like I thought, okay, well, if this gets published, that would be awesome,
Yeah.
but I really just got to get the story out. And it was helpful because I started writing it when things were really booming in the industry. So it took me longer because I was working a lot. But now that I'm here, I'm kind of glad that I like by accident got this other thing. Like, not that there's a lot of money in writing books, but
Yeah.
it's certainly at least something.
Yeah, and I imagine there's a satisfaction to by the process of writing a book. It is its own complete thing.
Yeah.
Compared
Yeah.
to a screenplay where it's like a finished screenplay isn't a finished thing at all. It's just
Yeah.
it's just the first step of a long
Yeah.
series of rewrites and in different ways,
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the reasons actually I wanted to write a novel, was because I was really tired of trying to get people on board of my projects.
Yeah.
Because when you're writing screenplays or you're working on films, you really have to convince a ton of people that the
Yeah.
project is worthy. And you have to get a bunch of money, and it's
Yeah.
exhausting. And then all those people think they have a say in what they're making. And they kind of do, because they're giving you labor, or they're giving you insight, or they're giving you money.
Yeah.
And with writing a novel, it is just kind of you. You get help from other people for sure, but it's the voice is you, like the plot is you, like everything is you, and you don't have to depend on anyone to open up a Word document to make your novel,
Yeah. And so when you look back on that first genre that influenced you, and we kind of talked about two different genres, and one of them is a core element of love camera action. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that initial impulse when you think about it now?
Yeah, it seems like it was always kind of floating around. I thought that I had and really I haven't thought about this until you started asking, but I thought that I was writing novels sort of out of the blue when I started this, but when I began thinking about your questions, I was like, oh, well, hold on. Like I was I was like writing these little mini books at like 6 years old, or like I was writing these plays in middle school, or, so it feels like it was always hanging around, and maybe I never took it seriously because, singing and acting and directing is a little bit more in your face. Like you have to really, show up for those things because there's going to be an audience there, there's going to be a crew there, and you've got to know your stuff. Whereas writing seems more like it was just something I was doing in the background, maybe.
I like the way you talked about that sort of hustle period of being in the industry. You have to do so many different things. Do you feel like you found some sort of through line throughout the, the sort of chaos of that? There's so many different types of programs that you've been involved with that, going into like general meeting mode, like in a general meeting, you have to kind of like invent, you have to really project this sort of connective tissue between it all. But have you found any genuine connective tissue between it all?
Well, no, it's not in my real life. Not in my real life. Because, I'll go into meetings and I'll have to remind myself, oh yeah, I've worked on that type of show before. Or, oh yeah, I've done that before, but I can't remember. But where it has connected is, in this book, because it's a behind the scenes of the industry, and it talks about a lot of different roles within the industry. And it was really fun because I kind of knew what everybody's job was because I had done them at one point. Like I had been an AD, so I knew what they did, and I had been a director, and I had been now the only thing I haven't really done was camera, although I was second camera, which was terrible on this very goofy Newlywed show that I worked on. But like you begin to know not only what those roles do, but the kind of people who go into those roles because you've met them. So all of the many things that I did during my hustle period all coalesced into this book, which was
incredible.
Cool. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was pretty happy about it.
Yeah, it's like you found your ultimate genre in a way. And also, like, I really do think that your experience is the norm now. Like, I think that the concept of kind of being one thing is completely eradicated, and that everyone has this opportunity, or everyone has this constellation of gigs and things and genres and all kinds of stuff that they're constantly juggling. And it's really up to like a sort of personal momentum to make it all make sense.
I know, isn't it so tiring?
It really is. But it's kind of freeing knowing that like only a select few people have like a very direct, this is what I do. This is just this one thing.
Yeah. And it, when I moved to LA from Canada, I did notice that people had that more than I thought. They did this one thing and they, were always hired for that thing. But it's true, like with technology and the way that the business is kind of shaken out for now, like my son has way more potential of making money than I do in a way, because he's animating, he's editing, he's doing voiceover stuff, he's acting in things. And that's just in these little shorts that he's making for YouTube. So he's already building all the tools on how to make his own stuff. And so, yeah.
Nice. Well, I think we ended on somehow both a pleasant and sad note about the state of the industry, which is how I like to end all conversations. But thanks that's good. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Tim.
And that's the show. Big thanks to Noël Stark for joining me. You can find more information about her work in the show notes. Freddie Nunez created and sings the You Are the Genre theme song, and Adam Smith produced it. And by the way, if you've upgraded to a paid subscription to this newsletter, you can hear in advance of next week's episode with Dave Hill. This is Tim Barnes signing off with your weekly reminder that you are the genre.